Walter Francis John Montagu Douglas Scott, 9th Duke of Buccleuch and 11th Duke of Queensberry KTVRDJPDL, was a Scottish peer, politician and landowner. He served in the Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve in the Second World War and represented Edinburgh North in the House of Commons for 13 years. He owned the largest private landed estate in the United Kingdom, covering some 280,000 acres. The estate includes Drumlanrig Castle in Dumfries and Galloway, Bowhill House in Selkirkshire, and Boughton House in Northamptonshire. A fourth house, Dalkeith Palace, near Edinburgh, is let to the West Central Wisconsin Consortium, which uses the palace as a base for its study abroad program. Background: Walter Francis John Montagu Douglas Scott was best known by his middle name John, and he was the only son of Walter Montagu Douglas Scott, 8th Duke of Buccleuch and Amp, 10th Duke of Queensberry, and the former Mary Lascelles. His paternal aunt was Princess Alice, Duchess of Gloucester. His sister Elizabeth married the 10th Duke of Northumberland, and Caroline wed politician Ian Gilmore, known as Johnny Dalkeith, from his courtesy title of Earl of Dalkeith. He was educated at Eton. Military career. In 1942, he joined the Royal Navy as an ordinary seaman, and was commissioned as an officer the following year, serving on destroyers. He continued as a lieutenant commander in the Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve and the Royal Naval Reserve after the war until 1971. He was awarded the Volunteer Reserve Decoration in 1959. He was appointed honorary captain in the Royal Naval Reserve in 1988. He was a captain of the Royal Company of Archers, Lord President of the Council and Silver Stick for Scotland. He was a member of the Roxburgh Club. Parliamentary career. After the war, he studied at Christ Church, Oxford, where he joined the Bullingdon Club. He briefly worked as a merchant banker in the City of London, and then as a director of an insurance company. As Earl of Dalkeith, he was a Roxburghshire County Councillor from 1958. He contested Edinburgh East in the 1959 general election, losing to the incumbent Labour MP George Willis, but was elected as a Unionist Member of Parliament for Edinburgh North from a by-election in 1960. He served as Parliamentary Private Secretary to the Lord Advocate, William Rankin Milligan, in 1961 to 1962, then briefly as PPS to the Secretary of State for Scotland Jack Macleay from January 1962 to July that year. After Macleay was sacked in Harold Macmillan's Night of the Long Knives, he was PPS to Macleay's successor, Michael Noble, from 1962 to 1964. He defeated a young Robin Cook in the 1970 general election. He and his wife sustained minor injuries in a car accident at Clumber Park, Nottinghamshire, on the 16th of August 1961, but made a full recovery. However, in an hunting accident near Hawick on the 20th of March 1971, his horse threw him off as it failed to take a dry stone dike, and then fell on him. Dalkeith was left paralysed from the chest down with a fractured spine. He left hospital in early September 1971, and spent the rest of his life in a wheelchair. Became a notable spokesman for disability organisations. He was the first MP after the Second World War to enter the House of Commons chamber in a wheelchair, where he was greeted by Harold Wilson, who crossed the floor of the chamber to shake his hand in October 1971. Dalkeith left the House of Commons in October 1973, as he succeeded to the dukedom upon his father's death. As a result, he stood down as an MP. However, he remained a member of the House of Lords for the next 25 years, where he spoke particularly on rural disability and constitutional issues, until the removal of the hereditary peers in the reforms of 1999. The Duke was in the headlines in October 2003 when the Madonna with the Yarn Winder by Leonardo da Vinci was stolen from Drumlanrig Castle. It was found in October 2007, 1 month after the Duke's death. Family. On the 10th of January 1953, he married Jane McNeill, a leading fashion model for Norman Hartnell, at a ceremony at St Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh attended by the Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh, and most of the royal family. She was the only child of John McNeill, QC, and Amy Yvonne Maynard. They had 4 children, 10 her children and 2 great-grandchildren. Richard Scott, 10th Duke of Buccleuch. He married Lady Elizabeth Marion Frances Kerr, daughter of 12th Marquess of Lothian, on the 31st of October 1981. They have 4 children and 2 her children. Lady Charlotte Anne Montagu Douglas Scott. She married Comte Bernard de Castellane on the 14th of September 1991. They have 3 children: Comte Boniface Louis Albert Charles de Castellane, Rose Jane Michelle Elizabeth de Castellane, Pierre John Boniface de Castellane. Lord John Montagu Douglas Scott. He married Baron Torelson on the 11th of February 1990. Lord Damien Torquil Francis Charles Montagu Douglas Scott. He married Elizabeth Powys on the 21st of April 2001. They have 3 children: Alexander Edward James Montagu Douglas Scott, Georgia Lucy Alice Montagu Douglas Scott, Orlando John Sebastian Montagu Douglas Scott. Death. The Duke died after a short illness at one of his 3 homes, Bowhill House, in Selkirkshire, Scottish borders, in the early hours of the 4th of September 2007. He was survived by his wife, daughter and 3 sons. The Duke was buried on the 11th of September 2007 among the ruins of Melrose Abbey, next to his parents. HRH. The Duke of Gloucester, his cousin, was among the 2,500 guests who attended the burial ceremony. Chairmanships. Radar President, Buccleuch Heritage Trust, Living Landscape Trust, Association of Lord Lieutenants, President of the Royal Highland and Agricultural Society of Scotland, St Andrews Ambulance Association, Royal Scottish Agricultural Benevolent Institute, Scottish National Institution for the War-Blinded, Royal Blind Asylum and School, Galloway Cattle Society of Great Britain and Ireland, East of England Agricultural Society, Commonwealth Forestry Association, Vice President of the Royal Scottish Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Children, President of the Edinburgh Sir Walter Scott Club, Royal Scottish Forestry Society, Honorary President Animal Diseases Research Association, Honorary President of the South of Scotland Car Club Limited. Titles and honours. Titles from birth: Lord Eskdale, Earl of Dalkeith, Earl of Dalkeith, D.L., Earl of Dalkeith, VRD, D.L., His Grace the Duke of Buccleuch and Queensberry, VRD, D.L., His Grace the Duke of Buccleuch and Queensberry, VRD, J.P., D.L., His Grace the Duke of Buccleuch and Queensberry, KT, VRD, J.P., D.L., Honours Knight of the Order of the Thistle, Chancellor, Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve Decoration, Justice of the Peace for the Commission Area of Roxburgh, Deputy Lieutenant of Selkirkshire, Deputy Lieutenant of Roxburghshire, Deputy Lieutenant of Dumfriesshire, Lord Lieutenant of Roxburghshire, Lord Lieutenant of Selkirk, Lord Lieutenant of Roxburgh, Ettrick Lauderdale, Bledsloe Gold Medal, Chief of Clan Scott, Honorary Military Appointments, Captain Royal Naval Reserve,